In this episode of Student of Life with Joe Hafner, we address the question, how do I protect my energy? Joe will examine the sources of your energy and confidence, the two biggest drains of them, techniques to maximize your energy and confidence, and much more. For show notes, links, and other resources, please visit studentoflifepodcast.com/7. That's studentoflifepodcast.com/7.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me for Student of Life. I'm Joe Hafner. This is the podcast for people who are seeking personal and professional fulfillment. And I am so grateful for the people who have been listening, for the people who have given me feedback and encouragement. It means the world to me that y'all are listening to this and have good things to say about it. So with that said, let's get right into today's topic. Today is episode 7, and we are going to talk about how to protect your confidence and your energy. So let's just do a quick review here of the building blocks that got us to this point. If you've been listening to the podcast from the beginning, and if you haven't been, I would encourage you to go back to episode 1 and listen to those up to this point, because what we've been doing here in the beginning is kind of building blocks, like a foundation. We've been building a foundation. And today is the first episode where we talk about the things that you put on top of your foundation. So the first and most important thing are your core values. What do you believe? The second thing is your purpose. Why were you created? What are the things that you should be doing, your God-given talents and abilities that you are best when you're doing those? The third thing we talked about is vision. Who do you want to be? What is your clear idea of what you want your life and your business to look like as you go down the road into the future? And that's going to help you set your goals and help you drive towards something that you're building for yourself and your business. And then the last thing that we talked about last week was your culture, and that's your environment. And is your environment creating momentum for you, or is your environment a hindrance to your success and your fulfillment? If you've been working on those things, this is a key point that we're at right here, because you've got that foundation, you've got that vision, you're working towards creating it. And what you need most of all in order to make that vision reality is fuel. How are you fueling putting that vision into place? The fuel for your vision is your confidence and your energy. And if we break that down into the components, energy, by energy I mean your actual physical energy. You know, the physical stamina you have to get things done that need to be done. Then confidence, that is your emotional and mental energy. Do you have the resolve to deal with problems and decisions and people and all the things that come at you during a day? That's where your confidence comes into play. So let me just stop here for a second and ask you to picture 2 days. There's 2 days that everybody has experienced, right? The first kind, that's the day where you're just on fire. You're working in your purpose. You're doing things. You're having success. You're winning. You're on offense. And the day is going great. And at the end of the day, you're actually energized and you feel like you could conquer the world. And usually you want to go celebrate after a day like that. Then there's the second kind of day. That's the day where you're playing defense and you're losing and you've got problems coming at you and people coming at you with issues and you're making decisions and the day doesn't go the way you want to or the way you planned it to go. And at the end of the day, you feel whipped and beat up and you just want to go and lie down at the end of the day. Those 2 days, what is the difference between those? Why do some happen one way and some happen the other way? I'm here to tell you today that you can have more of that first kind of day than you do the second day if you do some preparation and you protect your energy and your confidence. You protect your energy, you protect your confidence, and that allows you to have more of that first kind of day than the second day. It gives you the success and the fuel that allows you to be successful. And you have those kinds of days. So confidence and energy, they're very much like a battery. Picture the battery on your cell phone, for example. There's some days that on my phone, I am dealing with all kinds of phone calls, all kinds of things are going on. I'm on the phone constantly. I'm working apps on that thing. And by the end of the day, or even before the end of the day, the battery is completely drained and the phone is worthless unless I recharge it. Then there's other days where that phone is barely used. I might make a couple phone calls here and there, but I'm not really using it. And at the end of the day, I've got 70 or 80% of the battery charge still left in there. That's like your confidence and energy in real life. Some days it's drained down, other days you've got unlimited amounts of it. And it's kind of like the same idea with that phone, where if I've got 27 apps open on my phone, the energy is draining even when I'm not using those apps. If you've got your focus divided on 27 different things, even though you're doing one thing, you're still looking at what's going on. In the back of your mind, you've got other problems and decisions and issues renting space in your brain, and you're draining down even though you're not working on those things. Let's get into the whole idea of your energy and your confidence and how they are created. So your physical energy, let's talk about that. Physical energy, it all comes from taking care of your body, taking care of yourself, your diet. Are you eating properly? Exercise. Are you working your body to keep it moving? Jim Kwik, who does the podcast Kwik Brain, says working and doing things physically helps your brain work more effectively. So if you are not doing things properly, taking care of your body, your brain suffers, your ability to think and function suffers. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you following those patterns and getting the sleep that you need? And those things, they have such an impact on your mind as well as physically. But have you ever had a day where you're just drained and tired and you're not going to have a lot of success in that day if you're physically drained? I always like to think about the example of I'm a football fan. In the fourth quarter, how often do you see that quarterback drop back and throw it right to the middle linebacker? And you're sitting at home saying, oh my gosh, the guy was right there. How did he not see that he was staying there? Well, that quarterback likely has had a long game, been beaten up and knocked down, and he is exhausted and running out of energy, and his brain is not moving at the same pace that it normally does. And so he didn't see that middle linebacker and he threw it right to him. That's a perfect example of your physical energy being down affecting your emotional and mental energy. So your mental energy, where does that come from? Your mental energy, it comes from getting rest, doing things to take your mind and remove it from the daily grind of the things that you do every day. Do you have hobbies or distractions to get you away from those things? People who work 7 days a week, 8 or 10 hours a day, they are not as productive as people who are working 5 or 6 days a week and taking that day to let their mind be renewed and recharged and refreshed. So when you go into a day where you've been working 14 days straight with your mind spinning on all the different things you have to do, you are not going to be as mentally alert and mentally able to solve your problems and make your decisions as when you've had a day of rest built into that. It's a huge thing that you need to keep track of, and it's counterintuitive to a lot of hard-driven people who are out there trying to make things happen. They believe they can't afford to take a day off because something will slip through the cracks, when I would argue when you don't take a day off, more things slip through the cracks because you're mentally not there. You're that quarterback in the fourth quarter throwing the ball right to the middle linebacker because you can't see him because you're so tired and exhausted. Let's talk now, your confidence and your energy. There's two things that are the biggest drains of those, and that's problem solving and decision making. A great example of decision making and how it's painful sometimes when it's a decision you haven't been planning for, you're not prepared for. I always like to use the example of you get a group of people and you're going to lunch, and everybody's like, well, where do you want to go to eat? Where do you want to? And nobody can make up their mind, and nobody wants to think about it. Nobody wants to come up with it. It's because it's out of the ordinary. It's a decision that needs to be made, and it's an exhausting process to make a decision. So you have people who don't want to do that. Now imagine that times 20 with the big decisions with your company or with your life, where you haven't prepared to make those decisions and you haven't protected your energy and you're making those decisions in a depleted state. The odds are high that you will make a poorer decision when you're low on energy and confidence than you will when you are charged up and ready to go. I want to talk about 3 strategies in the remainder of the time we have left, 3 strategies that will protect your energy and protect your confidence so you can have more of that first kind of day we talked about where you're winning, as opposed to that second day where you're getting beat up by life. So the 3 things, they're routines, focus, and blanket decisions. And I'll go into each of these individually. So let's talk about routines for a minute. A routine is a process that allows you to develop a system where you're doing something the same way all the time, and it becomes a habit. It becomes something that you do without thinking. Some simple examples of that would be, when you drive to work. Have you ever driven that drive to your office where when you get there, you're like, I don't remember anything about this drive? That's because it's a routine. It's become muscle memory. You're just doing it, and when you get there, it's done, and you're not thinking about it. It allows your brain, it frees your brain to be working on other things while you're doing that routine. Another great example, this one happens to me all the time, where I'll go to take a shower and my brain will be spinning on something I'm thinking about, and I'm in the shower for a while and I think I'm done, and I think, did I wash my hair? I can't remember if I washed my hair. Sometimes I might wash it twice because I didn't know that I didn't wash it the first time. Though that's because that's such a routine for me that I'm not even thinking about it while I'm doing it. So imagine if in your life and in your business, your day was loaded with those kinds of routines where you get the things done you need to get done, but they're done in such a systematic method and process that by the time you're done, you haven't expended any energy or confidence on getting them done. All that is going to help you to have more energy for the important things, for the problems that pop up that you're not prepared for the decisions that pop up that you need to make that you weren't planning on making that day. Discipline that comes with that, it brings you freedom in your life. A lot of people who don't practice this kind of discipline, they look at these routines and these habits as something that takes away their freedom, that keeps them from being able to do what they want to do. They want to have an artistic life where they just kind of flow through life and do whatever feels like the right thing to do. Well, if you have an artistic life where you flow through life and just do what feels like the right thing to do, the odds are you're going to be a starving artist your whole life. If you want to have success and fulfillment and go towards that vision that you've created for yourself, you have to have discipline, you have to have routines. And when you have those routines and that discipline, it creates incredible freedom in your life. Let's look at an example in my business. I'm in the real estate business. And here's the typical real estate agent. They roll in the door whenever they roll in. It's different every day. They have no plan for what they're going to do. They sit down somewhere and start looking at things, trying to figure out how they're going to generate leads that day or how they're going to get someone to show a house to, and they have no plan. Things show up, problems, issues, decisions, and they spend the whole day playing defense. And so your normal agent, now remember, the typical agent sells, 4 to 10 houses a year, so they're not super successful, the typical agent. And at the end of the day, they're exhausted. They feel like they've been busy, but they've been so busy reacting and playing defense that they haven't accomplished anything. Now you take a high-achieving agent, a top producer, and their day is going to be loaded with routines. They're going to show up at the office with a plan. They're going to have a certain time of the day when they do their prospecting. They're going to have a certain time of the day where they solve problems. They're going to have a certain time of the day where they show houses or they do listing appointments. And those kinds of people who have that kind of discipline in their life, at the end of the day, actually probably in the first 2 or 3 hours of the day, they've already had way more success and really a lot more fulfillment than the typical agent who's just there reacting and making it up as they go along. Routines are important because they allow you to play offense. They allow you to attack the day instead of letting the day attack you. One of the best examples of a routine that you need to have is a morning routine. Every successful person I've ever met or read about has some sort of morning routine that gets their day off on the right foot. And in fact, I'm going to go into that in greater detail. Next week's podcast is all about morning routines. And you go back to Benjamin Franklin. He had a plan that was written out, his routine for the day, what he was going to do. And he's arguably one of the brightest, most successful people back in his time. Why are you not doing a morning routine if you're not? That's something that allows you to really get your battery charged up and get the day off on the right foot so that you can do things that are going to move you towards your vision instead of just reacting to whatever's put in front of you. The second strategy for protecting your energy and protecting your confidence is focus. Focus is one of the biggest ways to be successful that's out there. If you look at two of the richest, most successful people on the planet, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, both of them have been quoted as saying the biggest reason for their success is their focus. Think of a laser. A laser takes light. If you're out in the sunlight, you might get a sunburn over time, but think of a laser. That's focusing that energy for that light into such a small area that some lasers can cut through steel. Now, are you focusing with such intensity that you can cut through the problems and the decisions in your day, or is your focus divided and scattered where you're trying to focus on 100 things at once and really not accomplishing anything? One of the biggest myths in the business world is the idea of multitasking. Multitasking, there's been studies done that show that while a person is trying to do 2 or 3 things at one time, that their IQ actually goes down. And they're not doing any of them with any kind of excellence. So basically, when you're multitasking, what you're doing is you're constantly interrupting yourself and going from one task back to the other and interrupting yourself and dividing your focus and not really accomplishing anything, doing both tasks a lot slower than if you did one at a time. It's just impossible for the human brain to focus its energy and its power and its thinking on 2 different tasks at the same time. You can only focus on one thing at a time. The only way that ever works is if one of those tasks is a routine thing where you're just doing it without thinking while you're thinking about what you're doing. It's kind of like in the shower where when I'm washing my hair, I'm thinking about other stuff. If you're a multitasker, it's time to reconsider that and maybe think about having focus time. A lot of people call it different things. They call it focus time. They call it this being in the zone. They call it being in flow. But you need at least an hour or more regularly of focus time where you're focusing on the biggest issues you need to solve in your business, the biggest rocks you need to move in order to move towards your vision, the biggest problems that need to be solved. You need to have that time where you can have laser focus on whatever it is that you need to take care of. In fact, I would encourage you to have a routine that creates focus time for you. When I think of focus time, I always like to think about Ernest Hemingway, one of the greatest writers in American history. And he had his focus time by setting up a space in his house or his office where he had he didn't have a computer. He was back in the 30s. But he had a space with a typewriter and a desk that he had to stand up at. And the only thing he did at that space was write. So when he walked over to that space, his mind and his body were already gearing up to start writing, and it got the creative process started more quickly. So he got into the zone more quickly, he could be more effective longer, and he could focus and do what he needed to do. So I would encourage you with your focus. Focus creates incredible momentum. You can do, when you're focused for an extended period of time, you can get 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much done as when you're trying to do it amidst interruptions and distractions. So if you are in an office environment where it's impossible for you to avoid distractions, you need to find a place you can go to have your focus. Or if you're in an environment where you encourage distractions from the people around you, you need to change that and let them know that I'm going to be in the zone here and you can't bother me or interrupt me for X number of hours. And then 2, if you're someone, our society has developed such a short attention span that people can't stay focused. So it's a skill that you have to rebuild, that back in the old days, people used to have focus. They used to be able to stay on one task for a long period of time. Now people have their devices around. They have their computer, they have their cell phone, they have the regular phone, whatever. If you're going to go into your office for focus time, you need to turn off your phone, you need to turn off your computer, you need to put your office phone on Do Not Disturb, and you need to take away all of the distractions that are self-inflicted, as well as all of the external distractions. And when you spend that time with that intensity doing that, you are going to develop incredible momentum towards moving towards whatever it is that you need to be doing. And then here's another great thing. If that focus time is spent in your purpose, the thing that you were created to do, it'll actually be an energizing thing. Think about sports. Sports are a great way to see how human nature works because the results are so immediate. Have you ever watched a football game where a team's just getting their tail kicked and the other team moving up and down the field on them, and then they have a big turnover that maybe they take back for a touchdown, and immediately you see the whole team perk up. You see them get more energy. You see them get more confidence. You see them start playing better. They start taking the momentum. That's what happens when you're protecting your energy and your confidence. Energy feeds confidence, and confidence feeds energy. And when you're doing things to protect them and build them and feed them, they just keep building on each other and feeding on each other. And focus time is a huge, huge thing that's going to help you to have more success and more fulfillment in your life. So then we have the third strategy for protecting your confidence, your energy, and that's what I call blanket decisions. And another way I describe it is I call it flipping the switch. And basically all that is if you have a certain activity that you do on a regular basis and it's difficult for you to do that activity, or it's something that you don't want to do, or something that you hesitate to do, you make that decision one time and that's it. It's done. There's no more thinking about it. You just go do it because the decision's already been made. And I can give you 3 examples from my life where I flipped the switch and it made a huge difference for me. Back maybe 17, 18 years ago, I decided I needed to start working out on a regular basis. And I tried working out in the evening, which if you work out in the evening, your energy is usually depleted by the time you get to the gym. If you get to the gym, usually you don't make it there. So I realized when I looked at the people who are successful with working out on a regular basis, that they start their day with their workout. And it was important enough to me that I wanted to make that my key thing that I got done every day no matter what, so I could start my day with a big win. So I made the blanket decision, I flipped the switch saying, I'm not deciding whether or not I work out when that alarm goes off in the morning. When the alarm goes off in the morning, the decision has already been made. I'm getting up and I'm getting ready and I'm heading to the gym. And in fact, I do everything I need to the night before to make it really, really easy to get up and go. My gym bag is ready to go. My clothes for the day are already set out. All I have to do is get up, go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, get dressed, grab my stuff and go, and I'm on my way to the gym. And then to make it even easier, I have a trainer at the gym and a boot camp group that I work out with. So I've got accountability from the people who are there and accountability from the trainer who's creating the workout for us. I don't have to think about the workout. I just go there and do it. So those are all blanket decisions. I flipped the switch where I am not allowed to think about that in the morning. If you are laying in bed at 4:30 in the morning and that alarm's going off and that's when you're making the decision whether or not to go to the gym, how often do you think you're actually going to say, oh, I'm going to get out of this warm bed where I could just close my eyes and go back to sleep and go to the gym? You're going to do that more often than you get up and go. So I do not allow myself to make that decision unless I make it the night before or a day before when I'm going to miss. So that's flipping the switch. Another great example is a couple of years ago, I decided I wanted to write a novel in a year. That's kind of a big undertaking. So I flipped the switch and said, every night after dinner, I'm going to my office, I'm sitting down and I'm working on the novel and I'm writing a chapter every night. Even if I have to go back and revise it or whatever, I'm having a chapter that's done every time I go up there. And in the course of the year, I wrote a novel. And that's because I didn't come home. If I was tired, I didn't come home and say, oh, I don't feel like doing it tonight. The decision was already made. I did it. Another great example is in a diet situation. I was in a place earlier this year where I had kind of stayed at the same point in terms of my weight and my fitness level. And I wanted to create massive momentum to get to the next level in my fitness. So I did what's called the velocity diet, which is this insane diet where all you do is drink protein shakes for 28 days and you have one solid meal per week. It actually worked out in my favor that was easy to do. I mean, easy is the wrong word. It was simple to do. It wasn't easy, but it was simple because I could flip the switch and say, it's all black and white. I'm either drinking the shake or I'm eating something. And if I eat something, I'm failing on this diet. So I flipped the switch and said, the decision's made for these 28 days. I'm drinking the shakes for every meal and that's it. And what that did was it allowed me to put my brain power and my energy towards other things because that decision wasn't something that was draining me on a daily basis because the decision was already made. So where in your life do you have regular things that you do where you could flip the switch so that you can get better at stuff, where you can create a process, where you can take away the decision making and the problem solving that go with it? Some great examples are salespeople who have prospecting to do. A lot of salespeople, they don't like to get on the phone or they're reluctant to get on the phone, but they know they've got to do it in order to be successful. Well, flip the switch and say, I'm going to have a hard schedule where every day from 9 to 11, I'm making my phone calls. You walk in the door, you go sit down, you start doing your calls because that's what your decision is. Maybe you have, you want to work out and you want to get up in the morning, so you flip the switch on that. Your diet, like we talked about, your sleep habits. If you haven't been getting enough sleep, maybe you set a time and say, I've flipped the switch, I'm going to bed at this time every night, and make it an odd time. Make it like 10:07 so that it's very clear that you're making a conscious decision that that's when you are going to bed every night. Or maybe you want to have family time or a date night with your wife or your husband, and you're so busy at work that you don't seem to carve out that time. Something always seems to come up. Well, you can easily flip the switch and say, every Tuesday night I leave the office at 5:30 because I will be home and ready to go on my date night at 6:30 every Tuesday. And you just put it in your calendar, the decision's made, and then you're done. You don't have to make it again. It's not something you agonize over. If something blows up at 5 o'clock on Tuesday, you say, I've got an appointment that I've got to get to, and the decision's already made. I'll deal with this either afterward or I'll deal with this tomorrow morning. When you do these kinds of things, flipping the switch, having focused time, being in the zone, building routines throughout your day that help you to be more successful, these things, they create momentum in your life. They allow you to protect that energy and that confidence so that when the big problem or the big decision does show up, you're not already depleted through things you had control over. It helps you to have more of that first day when you're winning all the time as opposed to that second day where you're getting your tail whooped every day. When you do that, it's going to result in more success, in more fulfillment, and more time working within your purpose. And most importantly, it's going to help you take steps on a daily basis to move towards that vision that you've created for yourself. Finally, some of the things that you need to do, you need to start paying attention to your energy levels and your confidence levels. And when are they at their peak during the day? Study yourself. Get to know how you work, how your body works, how your mind works. And when you see patterns that every day my energy seems to drain away at 3:30, well, that's a good sign that you shouldn't be scheduling your important meetings for the day at 3:30. You should be scheduling them at a time when you're at a higher energy level. Or if you're going to be doing focus time where you're making important decisions or working on important problems, you should be doing those at your peak moment of energy during the day. If you know at 10 o'clock you have your surge of energy, that's when you schedule your focus time so you can get in there and do what you need to do to be really successful. Let's talk, just to wrap things up, let's talk for a minute about what you do when day 2 happens to you. Because let's face it, this is life, things happen that we're not expecting, and even if you're planning everything out and you're being very intentional about everything in your life, you're still going to have days like that second day we talked about where the world beats up on you and you come home just feeling tired and defeated. When you have a day like that, the most important thing you need to do is take steps that evening to get yourself ready to have your energy back at a high level the next day. So you have to do what I call an autopsy of the day. You sit down and you look at it and you say, okay, what could I have done differently to avoid whatever it was that happened? How could I have managed everything better so that it would have been a different outcome? What do I have to deal with still tomorrow that's lingering from today? And then you want to take a little extra time with your morning routine or that evening even and set up a plan so that when you're freshest, you can deal with those things and go on offense the next day instead of starting the day on defense, attacking those problems and those issues and decisions that beat you up that day so that you can go on offense the next day and start off with a fully charged battery of energy and confidence and push through those things. That covers this. This is, remember, confidence and energy are the fuel that will drive you towards your vision. If you want your vision to become reality, you need to protect that energy, you need to protect that confidence, and you need to allow yourself to operate at peak efficiency. Take care of getting those decision-making and problem-solving issues out of the way when you're at your highest energy level. So that's the podcast for today. I appreciate you joining me. Again, I am so thankful for all the encouragement and all the people who have expressed how much they've enjoyed these. If I can look at any topics that would be of interest to you, please shoot me an email at joe@studentoflifepodcast.com, and I look forward to getting back with you next time. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. Please subscribe to Student of Life at iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you go to for your favorite podcasts. Visit us online at studentoflifepodcast.com. That's studentoflifepodcast.com. We are on Facebook at Student of Life. Email us at joe@studentoflifepodcast.com. If you enjoyed the show, help us spread the word by telling someone you know about Student of Life. And please join us again next time. Thanks!